Hello, this is Dr. Dean Radke, the founder and CEO of the Ministry Institute and the creator of God's direction of what I call ROI for God and the Maximum CEO System. This is a comprehensive course built upon 54 digital modules that you and your team can use to fulfill your ministry's divine purpose while overcoming, exhaustion, frustration, burnout. There are two principal reasons why I labored to put this comprehensive curriculum together, this scriptural system that God taught me. The first is I never want anyone to feel the pressure and the pain that I felt early in my career. Not knowing the methods, the processes, the procedures, the skill sets and art forms of effective leading until God started to show me how. The how-to is critical. How to work this system is what really matters. Not knowing about it, but being able to implement it. Second, I see and hear all the time ministers hemorrhaging out of their calling, uncalling themselves, essentially, and business people self-destructing every day. We see that all over the place, all the time. Why? Because they've never been taught how to build a highly torqued performance organization and have a quality of life. That's not an oxymoron. To build a powerful organization and have a quality of life, you can have that. My mandate is to reach as many in the world that I can with this scriptural system that God taught me. How many times have I heard from pastors, from ministers, what could I have done for God if I had this 10, 15, 20 years ago? Don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake. Etch this system deep into your spirit and ensure that all of your leaders learn with you. Take copious notes, refer back to this system often to model it effectively for future generations of leaders. You can have the freedom and the intimacy with God and family that God desires and wants for you, and I want for you. Then pursue all that He has planned for you. That is what this system will provide you. ROI for God will ensure that you perpetuate the succession plan of Christ, the greatest succession plan ever built. And He did it in 3 years. Think about that. In 3 years. And it's going strong 2,000 years later, but it's not as strong as it should be. Why? Because we're not as strong as we could be. Produce a maximum ROI for God, a maximum return for Him in the greatest investment of all time, Him coming, and generate future generations for Him of generalist leaders that can lead anything and lead anyone. That's how you build succession. Build succession and leave a lasting legacy. Bequeath a reason for your existence. Change the way spiritual leaders lead by reinventing the way you do God's business. It works no matter what God puts your hands to. You wouldn't want to attempt to build anything without really learning, practicing, exhibiting this system, modeling it to your team leaders. As you study each lesson, you become clearer and clearer and clearer. You'll see leadership in a completely different light. And what you want to put your heart into and are putting your heart into, you will be experiencing compounding learning as you learn how to, the skill sets, the art forms of this very system. As they're revealed to you, you will conquer the system, the methods and the processes and procedures that will allow you to say, hey, I know how to lead anything. Believe that. Believe that. You will be able to lead anything, anywhere that God places you and anyone He puts with you and anybody He puts you with. But I'm talking about your leaders too. They'll be able to lead anything. Imagine the success you can have if your leaders can lead anything and anyone. Given the magnitude of this system, it's not something I can just impart to you in one time. It's not possible. There's too much to it. It's too comprehensive and all-inclusive. You will want to refer to it over and over and over again. So I designed the ROI curriculum as a comprehensive course, complete with video lessons and audio and workbook, and 54 modules to walk you through how to fulfill your ministry's design purpose while avoiding or overcoming exhaustion and frustration and burnout. God never intended that for you. That's why God gave us this system. Many call it God's system. I don't want anyone to ever have to feel and deal with the frustrations and the stress that I felt, what I call the aching void of underachievement. I found a way out that I want to share with you, and I'm here to tell you that it's not an oxymoron to build a highly torqued performance organization and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Really love it and have fun with it and have a quality of life. Well, because you're having a quality of life, you're prayed up and things are in order, and you have other people that are holding up your hands and helping you build the kingdom. So a pastor, here's an example. A pastor in Boston, he shared his testimony at a global event training of mine a number of years ago. And he said he prayed and prayed and asked God to show him how to reinvent his organization so he could achieve more for him. And God told him, God spoke to him and said, I can't reinvent your organization until I reinvent you. And he was reinvented with this system. He has expanded to a large international ministry, but the change had to start with him, and the change must start with you. Let's look at some issues that create problems that I had early in my career and that you have, and see how others turned them into opportunities. So the first game changer. The system that I learned that I needed and that you need is one with 4 pillars. One pillar is positioning. The CEO, the pastor, the leader, any leader actually, they all function in the same job description, which you'll come to see and learn and appreciate. But the CEO functions and models the CEO job description, how to literally do the job. The CEO builds a team structure around him. The CEO builds teams that can take the mandates that God downloads into your ministry and work on them simultaneously versus sequentially. So these are the things that we gain from just getting the leader, the CEO and any leader, positioned properly to function as a true leader, understanding the CEO job description. The second pillar is process. And we have 3 names for the process, and the CEO is required to establish these 3 things that encompass the process. We call it the Proverbs process. The Proverbs by which you build and establish what you build and get the pleasant and precious riches. And then the empowerment process, where we empower people to take responsibility and to contribute to the kingdom. That's what God put that in everybody. The ability, the desire to contribute to something of value. How much more valuable is what it is you're leading with to give people an opportunity to be empowered, to help you build the kingdom so you can have a life and they can learn and have a life. Total involvement process, the third name for it. Proverbs process, empowerment process, total involvement process. This is where the CEO functions to build people, to build the organization, and teams function with value. You know, when you work the Proverbs process, I hear this from pastors all the time. They don't seem to care, they don't seem to be motivated, they're just going through the motion. That's your fault. That's our fault as leaders. So when we work the Proverbs process, they immediately feel value. When they feel valuable, they become more motivated. When they're more motivated, they become more committed. Then they become ownership. They take ownership of the vision that God gave you. And then they become your advocate. They'll fight for the vision. That's how we get it, through the Proverbs process. And then number 3, the third pillar is planning. The CEO envisions the future with God. You go to the mountain, you get the vision, you get the mission, the vision, the mandates, and with God, and then you come down off the mountain and you lead an all-out attack on the future. You get them done. You're attacking the future. The teams initiate what you've never done before. It's the big difference between riding a horse properly or being dragged around the arena with your stirrup caught in, or your spur caught in the stirrup of the horse, and it's dragging you around the corral. And that you don't want to function like that. So the strategic planning is, there's 15 steps, and it's an all-out attack on the future. And then finally, number 4, the fourth pillar is performance, the skill sets. So the CEO, the pastor, leader again, develops the acumen for the leadership skills that are required. Those skill sets, the art forms, the tools. The pastor disciples those tools into his people by modeling those same art forms of performance. So you learn these areas and then you pass them on, you model them to your team. And so what are we talking about? What kind of skill sets are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the art of evaluation, start with direction setting, the art of giving direction. And then what you directed, you have to evaluate. So there's an art to evaluation. And then how do you run meetings? And how do you facilitate their learning, the discipleship, and the accountability of achievement when you're meeting with your people? And then how do you hold them accountable? And how do you disciple them like Jesus did? How do you deal with conflict and confrontation and those types of things? Those are huge. So one thing in the positioning, you learn the job description, but these are the skill sets that make the job description come alive and give you a quality of life, because now you know how to lead and stop doing the work of the ministry. God didn't create you to do the work of the ministry. He created you to lead it. And that's what I want to teach you. I want you to understand and see how simple this can become with a system and the methods, processes, and procedures. So let me give you a case study example of how it works. Once in the middle of conducting a regional Maximum CEO 3-day training workshop, at one point, I was trying to help the participants gain confidence and gain hope that they could do it and would have tremendous change in their life and ministry. That's what I was trying to convey to them, and to get them to believe that they could do these things. And at that point, a hand went up in the audience, and a gentleman I didn't know, I'd never met him before, he asked if he could share his testimony. I said, "Sure, sir, help yourself." And so he stood up and he shared the following. He said, "My wife prayed all night that I would go to this Maximum CEO training the first time you were here. And I simply refused to go. I told her, I'm sick of leadership seminars or trainings, whatever." He said, "They haven't done anything for me. I don't need any more hype or a little instruction on how to literally do the job. I hear that all the time. I don't need any more slogans, sayings, laws, theory. Can you just show me how to do the job, please?" So he said, but I finally agreed to go. And on my way, I told my wife that last night, while she was praying, he was writing his letter of resignation from the church that they were pastoring. And he said, "You see," and he's explaining to everybody in the audience, he said, "You see, I was worn out from years of doing everything myself and seeing very little progress and falling further and further behind. And I was ready to quit. I couldn't take it anymore," is actually what he said. I couldn't take it. We had 400 plus people, he said. We had 23 acres of land paid for in a high rent district. We had the architect's elevations of what the new building would look like when it was completed. And I refused to walk that land with God for over 2 years. I refused to walk that land with God. I refused to look at those architect's elevations. I refused. Why? I refused to take the crisis and the chaos and the nonsense that I was dealing with to a bigger place with more crisis and chaos and nonsense. It was already ruining my life. It was destroying my marriage and my family, my relationship with my kids, and the devil stole my vision. And the devil wants to steal your vision. He wanted to steal mine. That's what he does. That's why we have to be strong in our calling. That's why we have to have a system that will undergird us to resist him stealing anything from us. Boy, and when you find out from the system how this system prevents those kinds of things, you're going to love it. Anyway, during this first training, he said, I got a newfound hope and confidence. And I studied the material, and Dr. Radke showed me how simple it was with the right methods, processes, and procedures that the system provides. And we doubled in size, and almost immediately. It was like almost the first year we doubled. Things just started to click in. We didn't know it all yet, but things clicked right in. We got together at the Hilton, Dr. Radke and I, and he began sharing about the 4 pillars that I just told you about. And at first he didn't connect the dots, and then we started to unpack the methods and the process and the procedures and the skill sets and the art forms undergirding each of those 4 pillars. And the lights started going on for Pastor Gary, and he just gained newfound hope and confidence. It was like a switch was turned on. The light came on. And he said, I can do this. Whoa, I can do this. Wow, this could take care of this problem I've been having for years. And he started to see how easily he could deal with the issues and problems that were a cause for his frustration and not wanting to go any further with God. He said, why didn't I see this? This is so good. This is so rich. He said, my answer to him, I said to him, was because you've never been taught. Why didn't you see it? Because nobody ever explained it to you. Nobody ever taught it to you. So pastors and ministers, you can do this too. Let me encourage you. You can do this too. It's not rocket science, but it sure works. God didn't write this training manual to confuse the daylights out of us. And he didn't give us this system, his system, to confuse us either. It works, but you have to work it. You can do this too. You are so valuable to God. He picked you. You're his first choice. You'll get back in your calling. You'll become stronger in your calling. You'll have the freedom to do your personal mandates, the ones that God has for you. Like I mentioned a minute ago, write books, get into the media, out on the mission field, start other churches, other companies. You can fulfill your entire purpose with this system. You'll reach your full potential. You'll have newfound confidence. That blesses me. And they tell me, and I see it in their eyes, and I see the way they're now functioning, newfound confidence. You will achieve your purpose and reach your destiny in Christ. With the ROI for God course, you will get increased value, which leads to increased motivation, which leads to commitment, which then provides ownership, and they'll take ownership of your vision. They'll run with it. And then they become your advocates. They'll fight for this thing that God's given you to pull off. It's built so that no matter where you are or what organization you're in, you can have profound positive results. It works because it is based on the Word of God, the greatest training manual ever written, and the instructions from God in His Word. It has never failed to work because it's scriptural. And that's why I say many call it God's system. I pray that you will take the time with this entire system. You'll be attentive to take notes, that you'll strengthen your resolve and let God speak to your heart. Let Him impart to you and let Him etch it into your spirit. Refer back time and time again. I pray you will reach the fullness of your purpose, the purpose for which you were created, your destiny, and that you will do mighty exploits for Christ with this system. In Jesus' name.